Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, I'm going to go through one of the best studies I have ever seen in my entire life. This study is crazy. It's complicated, it has so many beautiful variations. My hope is to do it some justice, so I would encourage you to just sit back and relax. If you want to try to solve it, feel free to see how far you can get on your own before the complexity just overwhelms you, because it is a tough one. But if you want, take a moment, try to see if you can figure it out. While you do that, let me just encourage you to subscribe. Let's get right into it. I'm already so excited to show this one. So, this position, black's pawns are going down the board. They have 4 pawns. You have a knight. Okay, of course, they have a queen. You have a queen. So essentially, it's 4 pawns for a knight. Kind of funny how a knight moves in this pattern, and that's the number of pawns they have. Great. So, what is the first move in this position? It's white to move. The first move is already cool. How is that possible? There are 3 pieces on the board. The first move is knight to h2. And it might seem like I'm going quick because there are so many variations. Let me just quickly, just bear with me. If you go to one of these squares like knight g5 or maybe knight d2, there's going to be a drawing move for black. Whether it is king e3 or queen a5, there's going to be some drawing mechanism. So just for example, in this position, knight to g5 allows queen a5, and this is going to be a draw. Funny enough, the only move that looks decent is to check, but it's not doing anything. Just don't go this way. King to e1, and there are no good ways to mate. It looks menacing because of these 3 pieces right around the king, but it's not enough. And the same idea goes if the knight maybe goes to d2. Instead of being worried about these checks, black can play queen to b8, and they are fine. It looks scary. Trust me, it looks scary. But if you play queen f3, I just go king a1, king e1 rather. And it looks menacing, but after something like this, you just check, 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 lots of checks. It's going to be a draw. I will save you the complications. The position will be in the description if you want to mess with it on your own. I actually really encourage you to because it is amazing. Okay, this is just the first move. So, knight h2. Wonderful. Okay, what is the point? What am I threatening with this move? Well, you might think I'm threatening king d2, queen d2, because that would almost be mate, right? Would it be mate? No, it wouldn't be mate. They have a square. So what am I threatening? If they make a nonsense move, we'll say, maybe something like b4, I'm threatening knight g4 mate. Because look at the coordination between these forces. Pretty nice. And of course the king holding that square. So I'm threatening knight g4 checkmate. So if you move these pawns, any of them, it's not going to do any good. If you move the queen, maybe your thought was go queen here to protect against this. Yeah, that's not the principal threat. This is the threat. So pretty much you can't move any of these pieces at this moment. The only move to prevent checkmate in 1 is king to e3. And even now, it already starts getting fun, just right now. So in this position, there's only one move that really keeps everything going. And that move is to bring the knight 1 step closer and check the king. Okay, that seems reasonable. Let's look at the squares this king can go to. The king can go to e4 or f4. Okay, let's just go with f4, and we'll go back and show e4. It's kind of the same idea. So, actually, I'll do that the other way around. Let's do e4 at first. So if king e4, we have this nice knight f6 check. And what we're doing is we're pushing the king where we want the king to go. So just to make sure it's really clear, if this king on e4 plays e5, what happens? You get hit with a fork, like this. So excited in this position, I can't even articulate it. And then, let's just say, for example, the king plays to f4, same exact idea, you get hit with the fork, right? We'll just show these live, right? That's a fork. And if they play this one, that's a fork, right? I just had it on there. Okay, so if they go to that one, it's a fork. This one is a fork. This one's also a fork, right? Like this. So crazy, right? Well, they of course can't go to these because the queen. So out of all these squares, which is the only one you'd want to go to? You'd want to go, well, where do you, I guess I should say, where do you want to go? F5, maybe? Well, it's cool, but it doesn't really work because now I can play knight d7, and I'm attacking your queen here. Where's your queen going to go? You tell me, because I'm threatening some stuff. Let's say your queen moves just anywhere. And again, I'm going through variations, but there are so many. Queen to g4 is checkmate. Look at the coordination between the knight, look at this, and the queen. It's like a dovetail thing going on here, like this. I think that's the name of that mate. Okay, we're not looking at the king going to e4 in the position anyway. We're looking at the principal move, which is f4. Like I said, there are amazing variations. Check them out. This next move is kind of a natural move. Queen f1. Okay, what's the point here? What am I getting at? Well, the king has two moves. King g5, king e4. I think a regular, not grandmaster rated chess player can know that if king g5, you can find this mate pretty easily. Right? That's not a complicated checkmate. Okay, what about king e4? And this is really where it starts to get fun. And I want to make sure I keep this video to a decent length. I don't want to give you a 45-minute video because I really could. Knight f6, check. Now we're at this conversation again. Where does the king go? If the king touches e5, that's going to be a fork. If the king goes to e3, that's going to be a fork. Okay, they can't go to d3. So let's just rule out the squares they can't go to. They can't go here, they can't go here, they can't go here. So really they have one sensible square, d4. Now, here is just a nice little sample of what's happening. Queen d1. It seems like we're checking the king with no real purpose. Well, look at what's behind the king, this pawn. Okay, there's another decision point here. Where does the king go? Again, you have to ask yourself, they can't go here because the knight's covering that. If they go to either e5 or e3, they're going to get hit with a fork on either d7 or d5, respectively. So they have to run to the left. Okay, king c4. What's the point of all this? Queen takes d5 check. And now this is where I want to pause now. This is where I want to go slower because this is the critical position that I want to analyze. King has two moves. King to b4, king to c3. Let's talk about king c3. Just for a moment. We'll go back. What do you do in this position? There's only one move. Can you believe this? There's only one move in this position that wins. And it is a nice looking move. That move, if you want to take a second, I don't want to give it away yet. If you want to take a second, please take a second. It's so cool and it's satisfying when you find it. That move in this position, queen to a8. And you might say, what is the point of this move? Well, first of all, this square, d5, wants to be occupied by this knight, we'll say. This is a threat. Knight d5 with a fork is a threat. So, what does that mean? Well, that means that you probably want to cover this square, right? So maybe you want to move the king or the queen. Well, if you move, let's go one by one. If you move the king, let's say you move, I don't know, king c4. What is this doing? Well, this is what's beautiful about this puzzle. I can play knight to d5, and your queen is trapped. Isn't this crazy? Your queen is trapped in like not the middle of the board, but just on the side of the board. I have just a knight and a queen, and I'm trapping your queen. This is ridiculous. So I have it in colors here. The queen, all the green squares, queen's covering. All the orange squares, the knight's covering. It forms this beautiful little, I would almost call it a square, but it almost looks like a crown, like an upside down crown. Fitting enough for the queen, right? So in this position, that move wins on the spot. Okay, so that means black can't play king c4. If they play king b4, Okay, well, look at this pattern. You get hit with a fork. That's not a good idea. Okay, so they can't play king c4. They can't play king b4. What about king b3? Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because the point is that knight d5 is trapping your queen, right? I just showed the way that this queen cuts through everything, and this knight is attacking, and it's covering the c7 out square for the queen. And in this position, it doesn't really matter what you do. Maybe you give up, I don't know, it this way. It's not going to be stalemate. So no matter what, in this position, after the queen takes, if the king plays to c3, I go to a8, and I have this next really cool knight d5 winning the game. But that's not the only variation, and this is what's amazing about this. They didn't have to go to c3, right? I mentioned that in the beginning. I said they don't have to go here. They could go to c3 or b4. Let's look at both. b4 is, according to the computer, a slightly better defense, I think. It'll probably toggle back and forth, but when I ran it the first time in the engine, it was saying they're about the same. Okay, so if king b4, do you have to still go to a8? Let me ask you that question. If you do this, what do you think? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, here's what's beautiful about this. It is not a winning move now, because black has this nice resource, queen to a5, and their queen has an out square now, because it's supported by the king. Crazy. This is amazing. Okay, so what does that mean in this position? In this position, instead of going queen a8, I have a different move that is going to do something similar to the last move. What is that move? If you want to take a moment, feel free to pause it. It's a lot of fun. Queen to a2. Look at this. Look at the way the queen is now working this area. Of course, these squares. So what's the threat? Well, just like before, the threat is to play knight d5 check, forking the king and the queen, which means we're in the same place we were before. I have to either move the king or the queen. First of all, where can I move the king? Well, just look around. I only have one square to move the king to. If I move that king to that square, that's a fork. You didn't actually prevent the problem. You walked to a new square. Okay, if I move the queen, let's just say somewhere like here, I don't know. Well, that doesn't actually get at the problem because knight d5 is mate. It's not just a fork threat, it's a mate threat. So the only way to prevent the immediate checkmate is by playing something like c4. Well, great. I can just win the queen and I'll win this endgame no problem. So maybe you think I have to give up the queen, and that's the best really you can do in this position. You can play queen b7, but I'm going to play knight to d5, and after black takes, I take. This is no problem at all. This is not an issue. Maybe your thought is to run these pawns. This is not three queens against, or three queens. That'd be nice. One queen against three pawns is not a problem. So, I don't know. You want to play this move? There's so many ways to win this. I would go here probably, and then just, I don't know, something like that, and just move the king. There are 1,000 ways to win this. More than that, actually, if you think about how many ways you can do it. So that's it. Think about this position. Let's go all the way back for a moment. There are so many variations. I don't want to get too crazy. I don't want to give this video over 15, 20 minutes. I really encourage you to play with this puzzle and just mess with it. This is an amazing study. It's so complicated. Every single move, there are all these branch possibilities. And just that central idea, I love it so much. That central idea of putting the king right back to c4. I got to get back to that position. That position was amazing. Let's see if I can find it. So right here, this was where we're starting to get to the fun zone here. Yep, right here. That's the position. That is the beautiful nature of chess. Some people say chess is a board game. Is it science? Is it art? It's everything. And this is a perfect example to show that. If you love the game like I love the game, stay connected with me. Subscribe, like, all that stuff helps me out so much. It helps out charity. Just a free subscription. It doesn't cost you any money, and it helps the world. and it spreads the amazing game of chess. We can't do any better than this, can we? But yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. And until next time, bye.